Can you be my mama? Those 5 words froze me. I looked down at the little boy holding a crumpled drawing in his tiny hands. His eyes, bright brown, full of innocence, stared up at me with so much hope that I forgot how to breathe. He was standing by the classroom door, waiting for me after everyone else had gone home. The evening light poured through the window, touching his hair like gold. For a moment, it almost felt like time stopped. "Eli," I said softly, trying to keep my voice steady. "Why would you say that?" He looked at his shoes. "Because you're nice to me. You smile at me. You don't yell when I make mistakes. Papa says not everyone can be kind for free, but you are." My throat tightened. That word, Papa, it hit me harder than it should have. I knelt down beside him. "Your papa must be a good man if he raised you like this." Eli tilted his head. "He's strong. Everyone at school says he's the boss of everything." He said it with childish pride. "But he's always busy. I only see him at breakfast, and sometimes, when I pretend to be asleep, he kisses my forehead before leaving again." I smiled, even though my chest hurt. "That sounds like a caring father." Eli frowned a little. "Sometimes he looks sad when he thinks I'm not watching. Like he misses something, or someone." I didn't answer. I couldn't, because I knew the man he was talking about too well. It had been 3 months since I got the job at Sakura Hills Kindergarten. After 5 years behind bars and 2 years of scraping by doing low-level cleaning work, this was the first time someone had trusted me enough to let me work around children. No one knew who I really was. Not the head teacher, not the principal, and definitely not this sweet 5-year-old boy who didn't stop following me around. He had no idea that the person he wanted to call Mama was the same man his father destroyed years ago. Every morning, Eli would come running into the class shouting, "Mr. Noah, look, I drew something for you." His drawings were always of 2 people, one tall, one small, holding hands under a sun that looked like a smiling orange. Sometimes there were stick figures of animals, too. But always 2 people. "Is that you and your papa?" I asked him once. He shook his head, grinning. "No, that's me and you." That day, I almost cried in front of the whole class. One rainy afternoon, I was closing my lesson notes when I heard a small sniffle. Eli sat at his desk, clutching his backpack. Tears rolled down his cheeks. "Hey, what's wrong?" I asked, crouching beside him. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. "Papa forgot to pick me up again. The driver came, but he said Papa was busy." I hesitated. My heart screamed at me to walk away, to stay hidden, to not get involved. But the sight of that little boy crying alone broke something inside me. "Come on," I said. "Let's wait together in the office until the driver comes back, okay?" He nodded, sniffing. I offered my umbrella as we walked down the hallway together. His small hand slipped into mine, warm and trusting. For a second, it felt like holding a piece of my own soul. Later that week, Eli brought me a small gift, a paper flower made from origami sheets. "I made it for you," he said proudly, "because you always help me when I can't tie my shoelaces." I smiled, holding the delicate folds carefully. "It's beautiful." "Thank you." He beamed. "Do you like pink?" "Yeah," I said. "It used to be someone else's favorite color too." "Who?" I paused. "Someone I lost." He tilted his head, curiosity all over his face. "Did they go to heaven?" "Something like that," I whispered. Eli suddenly reached out and hugged me tightly. "Then I'll like pink too, so you don't miss them so much." I froze, my arms hovering uncertainly before wrapping around him. It had been so long since anyone had hugged me without fear, without judgment. His small heartbeat thudded against my chest, steady, warm, alive. And for a second, I forgot why I came here in the first place. That night, I walked home through the soft drizzle, thinking about his words. "Can you be my mama?" Why would fate be so cruel as to make my own son look me in the eyes and not know me? I reached my small apartment, took off my coat, and sat by the window. The streetlight outside flickered, reflecting in my tea. I traced my fingers over the edge of the origami flower and whispered his name. "Eli, my son, the child they took from me, the child his father, Daniel, stole without even knowing." I closed my eyes, and for a moment, I saw Daniel's face again. The same one from years ago, smiling, charming, powerful. The same man who once pulled me close and whispered promises that turned into knives. My hand trembled. I had sworn I wouldn't break my disguise. Not yet. Not until I had everything ready. But every time Eli smiled, my resolve cracked a little more. The next week, the kindergarten organized a parent visit day. The teachers were all preparing decorations, and I felt a strange tension in my stomach. It would be the first time I'd see Daniel in years. When he arrived, the air in the room shifted. Even dressed in a plain gray suit, he carried an aura that made people stop talking. The other parents whispered his name, Daniel Hartman, CEO of Hartman Holdings. He looked older, sharper, but still painfully familiar. His hair had streaks of silver now, and his eyes, those piercing blue eyes, searched the room until they landed on Eli. Then, for a second, they met mine. He froze. And so did I. Our gazes locked, and I could tell he felt something too, confusion, curiosity, maybe even recognition. But then he blinked it away and smiled for his son. Papa! Eli ran to him, hugging his legs. This is my teacher, Mr. Noah. He's my favorite. Daniel turned to me, offering a polite nod. Mr. Noah, my son talks about you a lot. I forced a smile. He's a bright kid. A pleasure to teach. His eyes lingered on me for a second longer than necessary. You seem familiar. My heart pounded, but I kept my tone calm. Maybe I just have one of those faces. He smiled faintly, but there was a flicker of doubt in his gaze before he turned to help Eli with his craft project. I watched them from across the room, the father and son who were once both mine, in different ways. My hands clenched against the desk. The pain I thought I buried years ago came flooding back. But then Eli ran back to me, waving a drawing. Mr. Noah, look, it's all three of us. I stared down at the paper, 3 stick figures smiling, holding hands. He pointed proudly. That's Papa. That's me. And that's you. My throat burned. That's beautiful, Eli. Daniel's voice came from behind me, deep and steady. Seems like he really adores you. I turned slowly. He's a wonderful child. You're lucky to have him. He studied my face again. Do I know you from somewhere? I looked straight into his eyes and said softly, maybe in another life. Before he could answer, Eli tugged his hand, laughing. Papa, can we go get ice cream? Mr. Noah likes pink flavor. Daniel smiled faintly. Then we'll get strawberry. Right, Mr. Noah? I nodded, forcing a smile. Right. As they walked away, I stood by the window, watching them disappear through the school gate. My reflection stared back at me, older, colder, and haunted. The child I carried in pain. The man who destroyed my life. Both standing together, smiling, living the life that was meant to be mine. I whispered, almost to myself, enjoy it while you can, Daniel. Because I'm back. That night, I opened the box under my bed. Inside were old photos, legal papers, newspaper clippings, and a single USB drive. The evidence I'd collected during the last 2 years. Proof of Daniel's corruption, his hidden secrets, his lies. I held one photo in my trembling hand. It was blurry but clear enough. Daniel, surrounded by his executives, smiling like the world belonged to him. I whispered to the empty room. You took my freedom. You took my child. Now I'll take everything from you. Outside, the city lights flickered like restless stars. And somewhere out there, my son was asleep, hugging the same paper flower I gave him. Maybe one day he'll know the truth. Maybe one day he'll know I never stopped loving him. But for now, I'll play my role. I'll smile, I'll teach, and I'll wait for the perfect moment. Because this time, Daniel won't see me coming. It all started that night. The night I made the worst mistake of my life. Back then, I was Daniel's assistant. People used to whisper that I was his right hand, the one he trusted the most. I worked for him for almost 3 years. I knew his habits, his moods, even the way he liked his coffee, strong, no sugar, 2 ice cubes. He never smiled easily, but when he did, it made my heart skip a beat. I didn't mean to fall for him. But love doesn't ask for permission. He was the kind of man who made everyone feel small when he walked into a room. Powerful, calm, always in control. And I was just his assistant. The one who stayed late to type reports, fix his schedule, handle the mess he left behind. Still, he trusted me. At least, I thought he did. That Friday night, we attended a company gala. It was one of those events where rich people wore fake smiles and expensive suits, pretending to care about each other. I stood quietly beside Daniel, managing his schedule, greeting partners on his behalf. He looked tired that night. His tie was loose, his hair slightly messy. He had been drinking more than usual. When the party ended, he leaned toward me, his voice low and rough. Noah, take me home. I nodded immediately. Yes, sir. His driver had already left earlier, so we got into the back seat of my car. Rain was falling, soft but steady, tapping on the roof like a lullaby. The city lights blurred outside the window. Daniel rested his head against the seat, closing his eyes. His breath smelled faintly of whiskey and mint. For a moment, I thought he had fallen asleep until his hand brushed mine. My heart jumped. "Sir." He opened his eyes, and something in them had changed. The usual coldness was gone, replaced by something else. Warmth, confusion, desire. "Why do you always look at me like that?" he asked quietly. I froze. "Like what?" "Like you're trying to understand me." I swallowed hard. "Maybe I am." He laughed softly, leaning closer. "You're too honest, Noah." And before I could think, his hand cupped my cheek. His thumb brushed the corner of my mouth. My heart was racing, my mind screaming that this was wrong, that he was my boss, that nothing good could come from this, but my body refused to move. When he kissed me, it was slow and deep, like he had been holding it back for too long. The car felt too small. The air between us burned. Every breath, every heartbeat was heavy with something forbidden but real. I didn't want it to end. When we got home, he stumbled a bit at the door, and I helped him inside. He was drunk, but not gone. Still aware, still whispering my name like it meant something. He didn't want me to leave that night. And I didn't. The next morning, I woke up before dawn. My head was a storm of emotions, confusion, guilt, fear, hope. I looked at him sleeping beside me, the same man I had loved in silence for years. And I told myself maybe this meant something. Maybe he felt the same. I left quietly, thinking we'd talk later. But later never came. 2 days after, I was called into the office by security. The entire building felt cold. People stared at me like I was a stranger. When I entered Daniel's office, he was there, standing behind his desk, his eyes dark and unreadable. "Noah," he said, his voice flat. "Do you have anything to say for yourself?" I frowned. "Sir, I don't understand." He threw a file on the desk. "Then explain this." Inside the folder were printed screenshots, documents, and security photos, all showing me entering his house, me leaving early in the morning, and missing company data traced back to my work account. My stomach dropped. This isn't real. You know I didn't do this. Then why were you in my house that night?" His tone cut like a knife. I froze. I wanted to tell him the truth, that he asked me to stay, but his cold eyes warned me not to. "I was making sure you got home safely," I said quietly. He laughed bitterly. "And my confidential files just happened to disappear that same night?" "I didn't touch anything. You know me, Daniel." But he didn't listen. His expression hardened, and for the first time, he called me by my full name, like I was nothing. "Mr. Bennett, you're under investigation for corporate theft and breach of confidentiality." My whole world shattered. Security dragged me out while the employees watched in silence. I begged, shouted, cried, but no one believed me. The press later called me the betrayer, the assistant who sold secrets for cash. And Daniel, he didn't defend me. He didn't even look at me. The trial was quick. Too quick. The evidence was twisted, the witnesses paid. Even my lawyer seemed afraid to go against Daniel's influence. I was sentenced to 8 years in prison. 8 years. For something I didn't do. And Daniel made sure of it. He used his power to set an example. To show that no one, not even his most trusted worker, could betray him and get away with it. I hated him. But more than that, I hated myself for still missing him. Prison was hell. The guards didn't care. The inmates were violent. They broke my bones, my pride, my voice. I learned to stop crying. I learned to fight. I learned to survive. 2 weeks in, I started feeling sick. At first, I thought it was from the food or stress. But then the symptoms got worse: nausea, fatigue, dizziness. One night, when the pain became unbearable, the prison nurse looked at me strangely after the test results came back. "You're pregnant," she said. The words hit me like thunder. I laughed at first, bitterly, brokenly, but the truth was there in black and white. I was carrying Daniel's child. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tear the walls apart. How cruel could fate be? To give me the only part of him I couldn't keep? When the guards found out, the abuse got worse. Some mocked me. Others hit me harder, saying I was disgusting, a liar, a stain. One night, I was beaten so badly I thought I'd die. My vision went blurry, my stomach twisted in pain, and I remember whispering through the blood, "Please, don't take him from me. Please, not my baby." Somehow, the baby survived. I don't know how. Maybe miracles do exist, even in hell. Months later, I gave birth in the prison hospital, alone, terrified, weak. The pain was worse than anything I'd ever felt. But when I heard that first cry, everything stopped. He was small, fragile, but perfect. His eyes were closed tight, his hands clenched in tiny fists. I held him close and whispered, "Eli. Your name will be Eli." I thought maybe, just maybe, I could start again. That I'd survive for him. But the world wasn't done punishing me. 2 days later, they took him away. The guards came in without warning, saying that child welfare had decided the baby needed proper care. I screamed, I begged. I clung to him until they tore him from my arms. I still remember his cry, soft, confused, fading as the door shut. And then silence. I fell to my knees on that cold floor, my body still weak from labor, and for the first time in years I prayed. Not to be freed, not for revenge, just for him to live. For him to be loved. 5 years passed. 5 years of surviving, of counting the seasons through a dirty window. I worked in the prison kitchen, taught other inmates to read, fought when I had to. Somehow, I became someone they respected. They called me teacher, maybe because I kept reminding them there was still something human left in us. And then one morning, the warden called my name. My sentence had been reduced. Good behavior, they said. When I stepped out of those gates, the sunlight blinded me. The air smelled like freedom, but also like loss. I was 32, broke, forgotten, and haunted. I found out later, through an old contact, that Daniel had married again. A quiet, elegant woman named Grace. They couldn't have children. So they adopted. The boy's name? Eli. When I saw the photo online, my hands shook. His face, those same brown eyes, that same little smile, there was no mistake. My son. My blood. Living in Daniel's house, calling him Papa. That was the day I stopped being Noah Bennett, the man who lost everything, and became Mr. Noah, the teacher with a plan. Back in the present, I opened my eyes. The city lights glittered outside my small window. Somewhere out there, Daniel was probably tucking Eli into bed, reading him a story, kissing his forehead, just like he once promised to do for me. And maybe, just maybe, Eli was whispering into the dark, "I wish Mr. Noah was my mama." A small smile tugged at my lips, but it wasn't joy. It was pain. A deep, quiet ache that never left. "Soon," I whispered. "You'll know who I am. You'll know the truth. Because love gave me a son. But pain. Pain made me something else entirely. And this time, Daniel would learn what it means to lose everything he loves." The night air in Tokyo felt heavier than usual, thick with summer heat and secrets waiting to be spilled. From my small apartment window, I could see the glowing logo of Hartman Holdings standing proud across the skyline, like it had for years. Not for much longer. For weeks, I had gathered every document, every hidden record, every whisper from the employees who still remembered me. I pieced together what Daniel thought he buried, the bribes, the offshore accounts, the cover-ups. The same system he used to destroy me was about to eat him alive. All I needed was the perfect moment. And that moment came sooner than expected. It started with a press leak. A major business magazine received an anonymous package: files, screenshots, bank transfers, and voice recordings. Within 24 hours, Daniel's name was trending across the city. The headlines screamed, "CEO involved in financial misconduct and cover UPS. Hartman Holdings under investigation." The fall of a business giant. I watched it all unfold on the small TV in my apartment. The reporters' voices were sharp, their tones full of shock and betrayal. The empire Daniel built with lies was burning, and he didn't even know who lit the match. He would soon. At school, life went on like normal, at least on the surface. Eli was still his bright, curious self, always running up to me in the morning, hugging my leg, handing me his new drawings. But even at 5, he sensed something was wrong. "Mr. Noah," he said one day, frowning. "Papa looks sad. He doesn't smile anymore. Is he sick?" I knelt beside him. "Sometimes grown-ups get sad when they've done something bad, Eli. Sometimes they have to face what they tried to hide." He tilted his head. "But Papa is good. He helps people." I smiled faintly. "Maybe once. But sometimes even good people hurt others and don't realize it until it's too late." Eli went quiet. Then, after a moment, he reached into his bag and handed me a folded paper. It was another drawing, this time of 3 stick figures standing far apart from each other. One was crying, one had a broken heart, and the smallest one stood between them with his arms stretched wide. "That's me," he said softly. "I'm trying to make them hold hands again." My breath caught. "You're a kind boy, Eli." He smiled, but his eyes looked sad. I just don't want anyone to cry anymore. 3 days later, Daniel came to the school again. His face looked different, pale, worn, eyes sunken from sleepless nights. The confident aura he always carried was gone. When he walked into the room, even the principal went quiet. "Mr. Noah," he said, his voice hoarse. "Could I speak with you privately?" My heart pounded, but I nodded and followed him outside. We stopped under a cherry tree, its petals falling like snow around us. He turned to face me. "I know you did it." I stayed silent. "The leaks. The documents. The press. It was you, wasn't it?" I met his eyes calmly. "You sound so sure." He stepped closer, anger flashing beneath the surface. "Why? Why go this far?" I smiled faintly. "You really don't know, do you?" He clenched his jaw. "I gave you everything, Noah. A career, trust, a place by my side. You gave me prison." I snapped, my voice breaking for the first time. "You gave me years of pain, humiliation, and loss. You took my life, Daniel." He froze, confusion flickering in his eyes. "Loss?" I laughed bitterly, tears spilling despite myself. "You don't even remember. After that night, after you threw me to the wolves, I found out I was carrying your child." He stared at me as if the world had stopped. "What?" "I had your son, Daniel. And the system you used to destroy me took him away too." He shook his head slowly, like he couldn't process it. "No, that's impossible. Do you think I'd lie about something like that?" I whispered. "Do you know what it's like to give birth in a prison cell? To hold a baby for 2 days before they take him from your arms forever?" His face went pale. "No,